Hi, welcome to the Spicy Data Omni Mini Context Engineering Workshop. Today we're going to be talking about what context engineering is and what some of the basics are and how you can add those in your Omni model so that your stakeholders get reliable, accurate answers when they ask the AI chatbot in Omni questions. We're going to walk through the before and after of 5 different sample questions and what the model does when you have the proper context and what it does when you don't. So if we take the classic example of revenue, where somebody might say, hey, show me revenue for this fiscal year. What's going to happen by default is if you give it to an AI chatbot or LLM or whatever you want to call it, it's going to jump right to the most probabilistic answer based on the information that it has available. So if it doesn't have any context, doesn't necessarily know how you define revenue. It doesn't necessarily know how you define your fiscal year. So it's going to make a guess as to what that is. And it's also going to be very inconsistent on what those responses are. This can lead to frustration and people not necessarily relying on the chatbots. So we'll start with the first layer by adding in joins and relationships, where we're defining what the relationships are between different tables, as well as what the grain is that they're joined on and how those tables are joined, and walk through the impact of doing that accurately. After that, we're going to get into field metadata and govern measures. So this is how you tell Omni exactly how to define a specific metric in the way that you have in the past. If you have a lot of this work already done in DBT, it ports over very well. Then we're going to get into AI context, which is basically tribal knowledge that your team might have on how different things happen in the data. It's going to be all sorts of stuff. And oftentimes, this is something that the key person dependency heavily relies upon because of a lot of this context that people that are deep in the weeds with the data know. You just have to write that down and give that to the model. And if you do it at the model, the view, and the topic layer, they all have varied levels of impact and varied levels of ways that they are delivered to your AI agent. We'll walk through that. Then we get into sample queries and how you can do stuff like maybe if you define internal users a very specific way in your queries and it's always the same, you can provide those to your AI agent. And then we'll get into an example on adding in a definition of the fiscal calendar to your model YAML file so that every time somebody asks or a stakeholder talks to your chatbot and references a fiscal calendar, it's going to have the same definition so that you have those reliable, repeatable results. At the end of this mini workshop, you should have the skill set to make sure that when a stakeholder asks your AI chatbot in Omni, revenue means exactly what your data team says that it means. And it will have that accurate, reliable response when a stakeholder asks, which that's what people want from AI is getting accurate results. Just to recap, we're going to have 5 layers with 5 different instruments, and each one is going to have the files as well as a work-along exercise where you can follow through how you can implement these different elements to your context. I hope you like this. I think you're going to have some fun.